Hello, welcome to the Minnesota Black and African Author Festival by herARTS in Action. My name is Taraya Johnson.
And my name is Kalia. The inspiration of the festival was to help students of Black and African heritage increase reading skills and comprehension through books with diverse representation.
But this is for everyone because we all benefit by learning more.
Tonight, our author is Lynn Davis. They will be reading their book, Beautiful Scars. Enjoy and please stick around for an activity and author question and answer section.
My name is Lynn Davis, and I'm originally from Sierra Leone, West Africa. And I make up 10% of my population from the tribe I'm from in Sierra Leone. And I wrote the book, Beautiful Scars. Tonight, I will be reading the foreword from my my pastor then, and I'll be reading another snippet, but I'll tell you what part of the book you'll find it. But right now, this is the foreword. As a pastor and counselor for over 40 years, I've had many stories from individuals who are seeking healing and meaning for their lives. What I have witnessed in the author's life and in her writing is what so many people seek. It has been my privilege and joy to be one of the companions of her life journey during the past 10 years as a pastor and friend. My earliest memory in our relationship is a vivid image of her walking hand in hand with her two small children on their way to church. It was a hot summer day, and they had quite a distance to go, and the sidewalk was along a very busy street called Division. I was intrigued by this stranger who clearly was not going to allow any barrier or division to stand in the way of what she believed was best for her and her family. My first impression of the author my first impression of the author's will to overcome adversity has since proven to be accurate reflection of her strength of character. This author is indeed a woman of faith who believes that no matter how difficult life becomes, we have the power with God's help to choose how best to respond. It is this essential belief in self-empowerment through faith that guides the author's writing of the story of Nylah. In the story, Nylah struggles not to remain a victim of abuse, dominated by feelings of fear, shame, anger, and disillusionment. Reading Nyla's story, Nyla's very personal and powerful story provides a unique opportunity for readers to reflect on their own scars from the past and how these scars can be transformed into beautiful stories of the present. As Nylah openly addresses her own questions, her own fears and hopes, it reveals for readers important truths related to what it means to be loved and to love others while also loving ourselves. The honesty and courage with which Nylah shares her thoughts and feelings help connect us to her and to discover again a shared humanity and common need for grace. When the author shared with me that she had been writing a book, it affirmed what I have learned about her in recent years. Even in the midst of a life full of demands and difficulties, she's creating a new rhythm of life, which includes time for reflection, for creativity, and self-expression. Writing is a way to honor and share her own story of profound faith in God, love for her children, and gratitude for the life and of joy and possibility. In writing the story of Nylah, the author tells a story not unlike her own. In reading Nyla's story, we can discover and embrace the kind of courage and faith which brings healing and hope to all of us. From Reverend Randy Johnson. And now I'll be reading from a page from chapter 21 and page 132. Nylah asked herself, what role do I play in the symphony of life? Am I a viola or a violin? Or am I just a loud sounding gong? Sometimes we do not know our roles, but we are players in one way or another. We contribute to playing some chords to add to the whole. Can it be walking in love? Or do we add every day to our selfish lifestyles? No matter what we play, we are in harmony of life. What we play contributes to and adds to the tune. Nylah reminded herself that her heart's chords must be in tune and not in dissonance. Was she walking in love, or was her heart too full of callous because of the past? She was now thinking a lot more clearly. I'm adding to some form of symphony. If my chords do not chime with the rest of the orchestra, then my life will never chime with happiness. Finally, she decided to exchange the callous heart for a more harmonious tune, not only for the orchestra of life, but also for her own very life. It was time to acknowledge how beautiful those scars were and walk in love to fulfill her destiny, the beauty of scars. From chapter 25, page 151, the heart is not so smart. It happened suddenly. Freedom was restored, and so was the desire to live again. Nylah wanted to live again. In her season of loneliness and pain, she had made the most of her time. She had resisted the temptation to do nothing, and thought of creative ways to take advantage of this season in her life. It was during this season that she classified kinds of people one might meet in one's journey through life. She remembered her sister constantly telling her of different kinds of people in life. Some people come for a reason, others for a season, while others for a lifetime. Her sister would say, God's ways are not our ways. In this season of reprogramming, Nylah knew faith would begin by shifting her thoughts. They were thoughts of good as God intended, not of evil to bring her to an expected end. This season was designed to burn away her insecurities. In doing that, she became aware of 5 categories of people she met along the way: party poopers, wheelie-dealies, project partners, dream killers, and the gossip. For Nylah, each of these groups of people serve a purpose in her life. Her responsibility now was to understand the pain each category contributed and to be able to forgive. Identifying the challenge means acknowledging the realities of the situation, forgiving and learning to let go. To move on, she had to forgive all, with or without acknowledgement or answerability. To identify these categories meant doing the work and eagerly wanting to reap the benefits of forgiveness. As she named them, she diminished the power or control each group had over her, not falling in any order of relevance as the pain subsided. Some snippets or some quotes from the book, and I'll indicate what pages they're from. From page 4, it says, "May you find beauty in all of your scars." And on page 26, it says, "In times of great difficulties, remain sweet." On page 44, it states that may you have undisturbed calm and quiet amidst the storms of life. And on page 53, it says, may you cry and laugh at the same time. On page 56, be still and know that God is God. And on page 112, it is okay. God will power you. On page 115, may you become useful to God and others in your brokenness. And on page 118, see the glass as half full instead of half empty. On page 140, whatever God is, it will be well, for with God nothing is impossible. And on page 149, be real at all times. And above all, it says, your past is not what you are. Your present is a gift, and your future are the dreams and aspirations in motion. Thank you.
Beautiful scores. Even though you're at home, give a clap to Lynn Davis for the work they put into beautiful scars.
Now we will do an activity inspired by the book. Art and writing projects are a great follow-up to reading to help increase comprehension and retention.
Write something to your younger self that they need to hear. Write about something that you healed from, and how did you do it? Write how scars can be beautiful and explain why.
Show us what you made.
Picture or video of your work and tag us across all social media platforms at herARTS in Action.
After reading the book, I bet you have some questions. Let's see what author Lynn Davis has to say when they chat with herARTS in Action founder Sarah Drake.
You can also post questions below.
So, thank you for joining us, Lynn Davis, and sharing some pieces from your book, Beautiful Scars. Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
I want to start off by having you tell us about yourself. Where did you grow up? What are your hobbies? What do you do now? Let us get to know you.
Like you said, my name is Lynn Davis, and I'm originally from Sierra Leone, West Africa. I'm the second daughter to my parents of 4 kids, with 3 girls and a boy. And I come from a long line of Creoles. That's how we're noted as. These were the returned slaves who went back to Africa. And so there was a parcel of land bought. The abolitionists bought this land, and it was called Freetown. So I grew up in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and I went to school all throughout schooling in Sierra Leone. And then I realized that I wanted to go further when I got to high school. And because, like I would always tell people, my plan was not to go to college, but the people I wanted to play with were going to college. So I said, let me follow them so we can still play. And so when I went to college was when I realized that I had a very photographic memory. I remember things from childhood as young as 1 year old. Normally, my mom would say, I don't even remember that. How can a 1-year-old remember such things? But it was very close to my mind as a child growing up. And so, because of this photographic memory, it was when I got to college, I realized I had that memory. And so I said, okay, let me put it into use. So when I went to college, I studied my first degrees in English language and literature. And that exposed me to a whole world, because I was required, when I did my first degree, I was required to study the different types of literatures in the world. I did American literature, French literature, British literature, and African literature. And so my book settings was based on these different literatures I was able to access during my college years. And so I knew I had a voice, but I didn't know what my voice was. And so since I was much younger, I would just write poems and just things about myself or things I want to think about. And I didn't make any use of it. But at a point in my life, I started putting down some jottings together. It was just 6 pages. And I said, what would I do with this? And then eventually, I just thought of a way to create something that could be meaningful to people. So I grew up, like I said, with for better part of my life with my parents, and after my parents left and came to the U.S., I grew up with my aunt and uncle, and so life was not as always flowery because obviously I wasn't with my parents, and so I took some of these hard truths in life and just tried to channel them into a positive light, and that is one thing I've been working with working on with my children. I tell them that you are not responsible for what happens to you. What you're responsible is how you react to what happens to you. And that gave birth to the book Beautiful Scars, because life happens for everyone. But then how do you make up? Well, how do you look at what happens in life? Do you see these scars as ugly and demeaning? Or do you want to see them as beauty? Like I remember during the time I was about to launch my book, I said one thing that it resonated so clearly to me. I said, I am a better person because of adversity, not in spite of adversity,
Mhm.
because without them, I couldn't make it. And that was the inspiration for this book.
You're
So,
skipping ahead to my next question.
oh, sorry about it.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's
So
okay.
I have to
So,
tell you about what I do now. That's one
oh,
thing
no,
I've missed.
that's
Okay.
okay. Do you want to do what you do now or go into talking about the book?
Okay.
Your
We can
choice.
do whatever you choose. Um, I would like to talk about my hobbies. I love
Yeah.
cooking.
So-
I love cooking. Growing up, I never went to the kitchen. I remember whenever I did something during the week, my punishment was to sit in the kitchen on a Saturday when my mom was cooking. So I hated the kitchen so badly. And so after I remember I got married, I was like, I didn't know how to cook. But then I had a husband. Oh my goodness, what would I do with this husband? And then I had to make up my mind. Either he goes out to find something to eat, or I have to learn how to cook. And that's how I started going into cooking. And at the end of it all, I realized I really loved cooking. So another hobby I have is dancing. I love dancing, especially to our African beat. Like my younger sister and I would always say, we dance to exercise. People don't understand that. But because it burns all the calories and it's fun burning those calories. And another hobby I have is gardening. I'm part of the St. Cloud Community Gardening at Prairie Road. And just this season, I got a bumper harvest. I'm also part of the Cold Spring Community Garden. I have about 3 gardens because just watering it or just feeling the soil in my hand is part of my healing. It restores me. So just being out there in the garden and doing things. So these are 3 key things that are very close to my heart.
Awesome. And so we know that you wrote and published Beautiful Scars. Do you have any other books that have been published?
Yes, I did an anthology of human relations and race in America, and for a course that I used to teach at St. Cloud State. I was formerly an adjunct professor for 4 years in the human relations department. And so whilst I was teaching, I was approached by some publishers to put together an anthology. So I did that also and used it as a form of teaching. And then during the time of this George Floyd issue, I was approached and asked if I could use it and do some talks online. But because of COVID, we were not able to bring those plans to fruition. So I also did that. But in the pipeline is another book. I'm working on another book. It's already done, but looking for um, I'm looking for, what do we call them? Somebody who would vet it for me. and just read through it. And so it's completed, and I know there's a little tweaking to go with it, but I'm hoping before the end of the year I get to publish that one too. And it's called The Outcast. It just talks about how in all of our lives, at one time or another, we feel like outcasts. But how do we make ourselves more comfortable in our own skin by doing the right things? Yes.
Sounds like another inspirational type book, just like Beautiful Scars. So tell us about Beautiful Scars. You know, what was the inspiration behind it, and what's it about to you?
Okay. Beautiful Scars started off with, like I said, for my influence of English literature. I was influenced by 3 different group of writing. So from different cultures. One of the African books I studied was Mariam Abba's So Long a Letter. That influenced my narrative technique that I used in Beautiful Scars. It was written in a letter form, originally written in French, but translated into English. And through the letter, through the main character, we were able to see everything that had happened. So I used the narrative technique of So Long a Letter to write Beautiful Scars, that we saw everything through Nyla's eyes. We were not able to get a peek of any other person's point of view except Nyla. And so that was very important to me, because most of the time, if we have other voices coming in, it somehow influences the course of the journey. So, but in order to find healing in a journey, I realized that you must abstain from creating a time, a place, and other voices. And so that was the influence for um, for Beautiful Scars. Another great author that influenced me was John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath. That's an American author. And somebody will say, what has she got to do with the Great Depression? But it affected me so strongly because of the use of language in that book, The Grapes of Wrath. It spoke about the depressions in the 1930s in America. But whilst I was reading it, I felt like I was living in the depression. Sometimes I was even afraid to eat my bread in college because I was worried there would not be bread for me the next day. That's how much I was transported into the author's mind or into the book. And I wanted that for my character to be able to see life like a Great Depression, but at the same time emerge stronger on the other side. So most of the time it's like we're transported, we remain there until we complete the journey. So writing about scars was just a journey anybody could take. But it's fortunate for me, I was able to take that journey, and it has brought a lot of positive outcomes in my life. And another writing that influenced me was Nathaniel Hawthorne's Scarlet Letter. And I know people would wonder, how could most of these American systems affect the way you write? Because you have to use, like, your past education somehow influences the way you see things. So in that Scarlet Letter, we talk about Hester Payne, who, like Nylah, conceived a baby through an affair. And so out of wedlock, her desire was to create a new life for herself, but society, through its hypocrisy, insisted that she wore a scarlet letter, an A, on her chest, which meant adultery. And the hypocrisy of it all is like to just show that the human can be very hypocritical. And that is why their voice does not add value to your choice of becoming whole again. Because in an adulterous situation, there are 2 people involved. But for Nathaniel Hawthorne's Scarlet Letter, Hester Payne was punished, and they did not ask about the other person involved. That's the hypocrisy, the legalistic aspect of sin and guilt, that people always had an opportunity to point at you that you're guilty of this, you're guilty of this sin, you're guilty of this past. But one thing that became clear to me, all have sinned. So why make mine even bigger? And so these influenced me. And then most of all, John Keats, Ode to a Grecian On. John Keats was from British literature. I loved it so much that I still like this one statement that says, hard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes, play on. So most of the time, we've had it all, we've seen it all. Yes, it's sweet, but what about the things we haven't had yet? And how would that influence our life to becoming somebody we want to be? So that's how Beautiful
So
Scars are.
those were your writing influences.
Yeah.
And then was there any event or person in your life that inspired actually writing this story?
Yes. I had started writing solo Beautiful Scars about 10 years ago, 10 years prior to when I published it, because I was going through the worst time in my life. And I just started journaling for fun. Well, I wouldn't say for fun, because it wasn't fun going through the worst time in your life. But I
Right.
started journaling, and from journaling, I was able to put together about 6 pages. And I gave somebody to read these 6 pages that I put together based on how I was feeling, because it was a way of taking out that feeling and sharing it. Because I believe in psychology, they say whenever you share something, and that's where we go through counseling, whenever you share something, it releases you of the burden of holding it together on your own. So I shared it with somebody and I said, just look at this, what I put together. And he read it and he said, my goodness, this is too vicious. He said he liked it, but he says it's too vicious. So I just put it away. I didn't do anything about it. I just left it. After I was a graduate assistant at St. Cloud State, and so I worked on an online publishing journal. And so after I was about to give up that job, there was a publisher who came to take over as the graduate assistant for that job. And so I had an opportunity to talk with her. And I said, can I show you something? I just want to show you for you to give me your honest thought on what this could mean. And she read it, these very few pages, and she said, and she told me, you have a very strong message in it. But I told her, someone says it was too vicious. And she asked me, I guess it was a man that said that.
I was just gonna say the difference of a man reading it versus a woman.
Yes. And I laughed and said, yes. But why? I asked her. And she said, men do not deal with matters of the heart like women do. So she influenced me greatly to go about, and she encouraged me to continue writing whenever I felt like it. And so I started going around picking tips and bits, like interviewing people, like I'd have conversations with people. And I just thought of it as a way to put together the whole story. So that's how I started writing. So I wrote a whole bit of things, and then I found somebody that could edit it for me, somebody from my church. She was a former teacher, she was retired, and she was more than willing. So she edited it for me. We spoke about what she thought about it. And that's how I became influenced into eventually publishing it. So I got so much support also from my church family, through the publishing process, to the launching process. So it is what it is today because of so many influences around me. But best of all, the greatest influence was my daughter. When she was 14, we were in an accident that nearly cost her her life. She had multiple skull fractures.
Mm.
So we were in the hospital for 14 days, and she was in induced coma for 5 of those 14 days. She had 2 surgeries on her head. And she said to me, like during that time at the hospital, she was one of the most cheery person in the whole hospital. She was the talk around the hospital because she did not take to heart what she had gone through. Instead, she said to me, she says, but mom, you taught us that God doesn't give you a burden he knows you cannot carry. I was shocked. It sent chills through my vein to hear her speak such profound wisdom at age 14. In all her pain, she stayed so positive. Then it occurred to me that I might have taught her well without even realizing it. And so I just decided now and said, okay, I think it's about time I help other women see life, that our lives are made up of so many scars, but are we ready to see the scars positively or negatively? She had a big scar on on the right side of her head, but yet she will tell me how beautiful she is. She doesn't wait for anybody to tell her how beautiful she is. She would tell me. And so I just thought of it. I said, yes, these are marks of beauty. So she was one of my greatest influence.
That's beautiful.
Mm.
So, how did taking, this was very personal to you. You've got the inspiration from your daughter, you've got what you went through with your relationship. So, how did, finally getting these words to paper and, the book published, how did all of this impact you emotionally?
Emotionally, at first, I was very worried about putting some personal aspect that I've gone through in my life. And that is why I made it a fiction so that somebody cannot walk in and pick up which one is mine or which one is somebody else's. So from the get-go, I started writing it like people were like, you have to do an autobiography. And I said, I don't think I'm ready for an autobiography yet in my life. And so my thought process was, let me just, in order for me to make it through the writing process, because these are very personal things. So in order for me to make it through the writing process, I must put it in the third person. So Nylah can be me, but it cannot be me also. And
Right.
so people are left to guess who is who in the whole story. But also some people who might have known my story in the past would recognize some areas that are my life story. And for a moment, I thought I did not want to put out my personal life story. But then again, I was giving my past power to control my present. And that power was what I wanted to take back.
Mm-hmm.
And so in writing it, I took back that power. I was able to forgive a lot of people that I thought I would never forgive because of what I had gone through. Like people who did not know your truth but made fun of you. People who did not share or even empathize with some of the things you had gone through. People who were so very close but yet very far based on what they were saying to you. So I just had to find a way. I had to go through 2.5 years of therapy just to get over some of these things. And so I had to find a way to take back my power. And so putting together Beautiful Scars was a way of taking back my power. And I see how it's like it has brought so much positive things to me in return. Like people will say to me, you're so brave to even have been put so much on paper. But then I don't see myself as brave. I see myself as a victor. I'm able to transcend everything that has happened in the past that would have caused me to be ashamed of myself. Because normally, like I said, for life in general, people love it when you're ashamed of yourself.
Mm,
Have you ever had people celebrate you for not being ashamed? Instead, they'll say, you ought to be ashamed of yourself in
mhm,
rebuke. And so I had to take back that power. And that was the greatest, I should say, the greatest achievement in putting together beautiful scars.
mm. That's powerful. So, as you know, our focus for this series is to help young Black and African students increase their interest in reading and improve comprehension through representation. And so I want to ask you a couple of questions where you think about your younger self. So you're in elementary, middle school, high school. And so, what would have younger you um, told a friend who said, I hate reading or I don't like to read? Like, what advice would you give a child that thinks like that?
Um, the first advice I would give a child that things like that, or my younger me, would say, do you like most of the time we're mostly attracted to being powerful? That's one thing every kid wants to be. I remember my kids who wants to be Spider-Man, who wants to be the princess. We all want to be powerful. So I will try to create that image of power. And I say, if you want to be powerful, you cannot be powerful from outside looking in. Reading is an essential part of building your skills in becoming powerful. And not only being powerful, but becoming influential. You want to influence a whole group of people. You want to influence how they see you, what they think about you, and how you're valued in society. And in doing that, you have to just read. Sometimes you wouldn't understand, but keep reading until you get there. It's a journey, and we never come to the end until our life ends. So my encouragement, and I think that was what I did with my own children. Um, I know sometimes, like my eldest struggled with reading, and so I'd ask him to read aloud to me. He did not like it. And it's like, why do I have to read aloud? Why can't I just read in my mind? I said, reading aloud takes away the shame and you get better at it. So each day you read some snippets aloud, you get better at it. And it restores your confidence. You want to be a confident person. So these are things we want in life. If you ask kids about what they're looking forward, you want to be influential, powerful, and confident. And so reading influences all of these aspects of our life. It makes us better people than what we are.
Nice. How about think about when you yourself were a
Mhm.
child? Um, is there anything, based on what you know now, that
Mhm.
you would tell younger you about reading?
Yes. Um, Based on what I know now, like take for
Mm-hmm.
example,
Like,
I
oh,
went to
I wish
school.
I would have done that, or
Yes.
I did that well, or
Yeah. Well, I did not pay keen attention to school like I would have had I known how important it was to me in life. So talking to my younger me would tell me, pay more attention to your schoolwork. The reason being, or read more, because knowledge is power. It's like you want to influence people by what you say and how you say it. But if you are not open to so many things, like being able to hold a conversation. So like I pointed out, I went to college because the people I was playing with were going to college. It's not because of any personal aspiration of mine. No. But I had all these people that I was playing with in high school, and everybody says they were going to college. I said I didn't have a choice. I have to go to college. And that's how I got into college. And then when I got into college, I realized, wow, this is a whole new world for me. I would have regretted it not coming to college. So my older Lynn would tell myself now, pay attention to certain things in life. They can influence your future for the positive or for the negative. Just paying attention, especially to something as insignificant as about this, something as insignificant as reading. Okay.
Okay. And you talked about how writing this book gave you your power back. But I'm wondering, at a young age, was there an experience where you learned that language or reading had power, that it was powerful?
Yes, I probably would say by the time I got to high school or like middle school, high school, I had come to realize that reading gave you a power you never anticipated you'd ever have. Let me give an example. I remember I was preparing for a public exams in high school. And so I struggled a lot with comprehension and reading. It didn't make sense to me. And so my guardians then said, okay, if you like somebody to help you in the process, we can find someone. And so they found one of my teachers in school, and I was going to her like 3 times a week, and she would make me read things. She would try to bring out those things that I should find in a passage. At the very beginning, I struggled with it. I struggled so badly. But then before going to the public exam that we were supposed to take, we were asked to do some trial exams in school. And when the teacher, my class teacher, was giving out the papers for the trial exams, she said to me, I had to look at your name 3 times to make sure it was you writing. And I looked at her like, what is she talking about? Obviously, that person that I've been working with has influenced me so greatly that I did not even know that my writing ability had changed for the better. So much so that the teacher had to look at my name 3 times to ensure it was me writing. And I think since then I came to realize that I could achieve more if I just set my mind to it. And so that experience in high school really taught me as an individual that I could be better at what I do. And that's how I got into English language and literature in college, based off on the support I received in high school.
Very cool. And so we always like to end with what's next with your writing. And you mentioned that you're working to publish a book, hopefully yet this year. Is there any other dreams brewing for books?
Yes. One very, very important dream that's brewing in me, and it's because of COVID, I couldn't pursue it because I put together a proposal called Writing as a Therapy.
Mm.
Writing as a therapy works greatly. Even I'm practicing it with even my kids. Just write how you feel. It's very therapeutic to just put it to paper. And that's how I learned how to take notes. That's how I learned how to express myself without, you don't have to have anybody over your head. It's just to give you the skills and the ability that when I have a bad day, I can come back and just sit and just express myself on that piece of paper. I may have so many mistakes in it. My tenses might be wrong and out of context, but it takes the burden from my heart. It takes the pain of what I felt on that day. It takes it away. Sometimes some of us wouldn't publish what we have written, but it gives us an opportunity. Like I had in therapy, there were so many ways that you could deal with those writings. Like one way was to put them in a balloon, blow the balloon up, and just let it go. It is a therapeutic way of letting go of your pains, your worries, your heartaches. Another way is that you could you could have a fire pit and just burn these things. So my thought process is like, if I could bring together, especially young girls, because they go through quite a lot in life, and they go through these things silently, because I was one of them. So I understand especially what they're going through, because they believe society does not understand them, number one. They believe they cannot tell somebody their truths of what's in their heart because it's so bad. Nobody would like me. And so if they could just put it on paper and then like burn it or dispose of it, it's like taking away that shame, taking away the pain. So writing as a therapy is very, very close to my heart. And I'm trusting that one of these days I might be able to put together something that somebody might be interested in that could help young girls. Because like I said, I was one of them. And so it would help immensely to get things out and make a better life for ourselves. Yes.
Nice. We look forward to that book in the future. Any final last words that you want to share with the students watching?
Okay. I'm just going to encourage them. Life happens, and it happens to all of us with no exempt. Being sorry for yourself does not take the pain away. It just add more to your pain. So in order for you to feel empowered, because empowerment comes, but first and foremost, we must learn to empower ourselves. We cannot sit and wait for somebody to empower us. And so therefore, I'd encourage every young girl to feel empowered in themselves by taking life as possible, as making it as positive as possible. And one way you could do that is by reading. Because when you understand what you read, then you can also go back and put some perspective on a paper that could either help you become somebody better tomorrow or diminish your returns of not being anybody at all. But like I pointed out, our desire every day in life growing up is to be influential, powerful, and to make ourselves known and established in society. And so that is why we have all these fantasies about the princess and the frog. We have these fantasies about Spider-Man. You don't have to wait for a spider to bite you to feel empowered. Neither would you want a frog to kiss you in order for you to become a princess. The choice of becoming a princess starts from within. I dare say that I told my daughter, I'm raising a princess, whether you like it or not. You don't have a choice. And so when you feel like a princess, you feel empowered. You do things that would help you get to the next level in life. And that's where I like to stop today.
Thank you so much for your time, the work on your book and books, and your inspiration for our youth tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'll stay in touch.
Thank you to author Lynn Davis for answering our questions about writing their book, Beautiful Scars.
We hope you are as excited as we are. This is an activity made possible by the voters of Minnesota through a grant from the Central Minnesota Arts Board. Thanks to the legislative appropriation from the Arts and Culture Heritage Fund. Thank you.
The Minnesota Black and African Author Festival is also possible because of herARTS in Action and the generous sponsors. Thank you to the African American Employees Research Group at CentraCare, Higher Works Collaborative with the Bush Foundation, Apiary Co-working, Voices Black Business Resource Group at Capital One, and Branding Up International. Help the authors make sure their books are in as many libraries as possible. If you don't see their books in your local library, please request it.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember to keep reading.